Oh, the warm blanket that is America. God, it just protects us all. It's so wonderful. Makes you feel like super tingly. Ooh, real low. Not quite that low, but like, not, between here and down there, somewhere in the gut region, somewhere in the big gut region, you feel that America, don't you? That, oh yeah, I might need to take a shit actually, but that might, no, that's America. That's America. Yeah, I feel it. That's the American spirit. It resides within each of you, except for you non-Americans. You're scum. Mark Lehamdu. I don't do French stuff. We're gonna call you Mark Lefridon.
20 years ago, I would have never predicted that gay marriage and legal weed could ever exist in the US. What other positive changes do you expect in the next 20 years?
Positive changes in the next 20 years. Okay, so sex robots, that's probably happening, right? Trans rights, those will be advanced for sure. But I do want to say that whatever the future holds in terms of positive developments, I think that there's a lot of really bad stuff on the horizon as well. I think, ecologically speaking, I don't think the planet is in the best condition at this point. That's just my opinion, happens to be backed by mountains of scientific evidence, but it's also my opinion. So I'm going to give my opinion 352 metric tons of weight, and I'm going to give science at least another 7 or 8 tons to toss on top of that. So, as far as the next 20 years go, you can look forward to a lot more bad than you can good. But to be fair, you didn't ask me about the bad, you asked me about the good, so I'm listing off some good. UBI, I think, strong possibility. The reason I think UBI is a strong possibility is because there are so many politicians out there espousing ways to bring about a more just and equitable sort of social democrat society. But you have Andrew Yang advocating for what I believe is really just a stopgap measure to preserve capitalism by saying that the bottom of capitalism is no longer zero. It's whatever this UBI is. So that is a way, I think, to put capitalism on a life support system. And that's why I think when the chips are down, that is going to be the solution that everybody moves over to as far as the establishment is concerned. Because their top priority is going to be, how do we change things enough to keep this going, but still maintain most of the power that we have now? And I think that the UBI solution is going to be the solution that they look to and say, yeah, actually, this is a pretty smart move, because really, they're just going to give all that money back to us anyway, but it cycles through, and it keeps the plebs alive, and it makes them feel like, well, I have some basic quality of living, and so that'll allow us to continue exploiting them, in an unfettered way. Or at least with very minimal fetters. What the hell is a fetter? Fetter. Noun, a chain or manacle used to restrain a prisoner, typically placed around the ankles. Oh, good to know. At a minimum asks,
why do you think leftist streamers haven't really done much for unions? There's a ton of strike funds on GoFundMe, like 24,000 campaigns, but there hasn't been a streamer that has fundraised for any of them. Are they afraid of rocking the boat?
So, becoming a streamer tends to distort and disconnect you from the reality of working class people, if in fact you ever had any connection to that, social class to begin with. Now, I had no idea about all of these GoFundMe campaigns to fund various riots or political actions or union strikes across the country. I was not even aware of them. I think that there's a good solid chance that many other streamers are not aware of them. And I would also say that with 24,000 of the things floating around out there, they must be quite difficult to vet. Because one of the things about GoFundMe is anyone can show up and say, my dog is sick, my mom is sick, my cousin's sick, I need legal defense because the mailman is accusing me of groping his genitals for the third time, whatever. You can put whatever you want in a GoFundMe campaign, and there's very little oversight or, rigor. You're not really expected to confirm the story that you're telling. It's just a face value, hey, give me money, here's the reason I'm stating it's for. Short answer, all of these streamers are completely out of touch with the common man, but even if they weren't, who can vet these GoFundMes? Who knows what's really going on with them? The best thing that streamers can do, honestly, is advocacy for whatever particular cause, and hopefully the workers in their audience can go out there and do some kind of actions. There's a reason why we're just bloviating loudmouths in front of cameras. If we were good at actually doing things, we would be out there actually doing things. We're not. We're good at looking into a camera and going, haha, I know what I'm talking about, or at least I can pretend to for a minute. Are you fooled? Are you convinced? Did you think I knew what I was talking about? You sap. You sucker. You dupe. You rube. I'll bring it down a notch. 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 Gang of Greenhorns, #General Strike, asks,
is atheism still at the forefront of your philosophy? If not, why not?
So I don't like to commit to too many of these ists and too many of these isms, because when you get under the ist umbrella, I'm a blankist, I'm a blumpist, I'm a frimpist, I'm a frumpist, when you start doing that, when you start putting yourself under the label, look, I've got my label, everybody. Look how safe and snug I am in my label. My wonderful label. Ha 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 ha. Wee. Wee. It's label palooza up in here. Yeah. Label, 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 label. Once you're under that label, man, it's like you're in the box, and now all the other people in the box, someone else in the box says something you don't agree with, all of a sudden they're speaking for you, all these other people have a different understanding of the label than you do, so they start applying stuff to you based on the dumb label, and, it's not always true, and then you have to explain that that's not the way you're using the label, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just a damnable inconvenience. So the only time I want to use a label is if I'm in a position where it's like, okay, I'm really, truly, absolutely comfortable with this label, and I'm willing to deal with all of the nonsense that's going to come along with slapping this label on myself. So atheism is one such label. And it's because it's a very simple ism. It's really not much of an ism at all. It's just the ism of, hey, God, does he exist? Yes, no. No, he does not exist. You're an atheist. It's not really much of a belief structure. There's no dogma. There's no anything to it. Every time there was this lame attempt a few years back to do this thing, Atheism Plus. It was like, oh, well, we're going to be atheism, but we're going to add stuff to it. It's like, don't do that. Just stop. Let's just leave atheism be. Atheism is a simple thing that just means you reject the idea, the concept of a god or gods, any sort of deity or cosmic force looking over events, manipulating things in its favor, casting moral judgments, whatever duties you give your deity, I'm not interested in them because I think it's fiction. I think it's nonsense. I think it's just a lot of, oh, wow, we're going to control people with this. So I'm not interested in that. No evidence of it. Just totally made up, bogus nonsense. I've never heard one good, compelling argument for why it's even remotely true. And if you proved one is true, then why are there so many other ones that are obviously untrue? Because if there's one real religion, that means there's a whole hell of a lot of fake ones. So why don't you just say, hey, maybe they're all fake. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe that's the Occam's razor solution to this here problem. So atheism being the simple little yes or no question that it is, I don't think atheism was ever at the forefront of my philosophy. It was a question of some interest because it is if you believe in God, if you believe that the universe has a creator and that creator has a purpose that they intend for you, that they have rules that they expect you to follow, then that is absolutely the cornerstone of your philosophy, okay? But if you're an atheist, all you're saying is, I reject that. And from there, it's like, whatever. It's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. We got Tina Turner up in this bitch, and we don't know what's gonna happen, okay? 2 men enter, 1 man leave, okay? It's craziness. It's craziness. And so, you can formulate all kinds of different philosophies from there. Atheism, we reject this, so therefore, I'm a humanist. And I believe in the potential of mankind, and I think that the highest good is that which serves man. You can have that attitude, or you could have sort of like might makes right Nazi trip, where it's like, we are the superior ones, and all those who are not like us will be, destroyed, or whatever. You can have any sort of number of good, evil, whatever philosophies that they don't really spring forth from atheism, but the rejection of religious dogma enables you to engage in any of those philosophies. But then again, so does the embrace of religious dogma, because you can do the same humanist thing or Nazi thing and just say, this is God's will, and, whatever. So I suppose that really the atheism question doesn't really have a tremendous impact on philosophy. It's just kind of like, hey, my arguments cannot be justified by simply saying, well, it's God's will. The basic difference between being an atheist and being a religious person in terms of your philosophy is that if you are an atheist, you have to actually justify your philosophy, whereas if you're a theist, you can just say, well, it's all God's will. Really, it's your will, but you say it's from God. And then you tell other people, and then really dumb people, without much going on, they're like, ooh, it's God's will, and they just follow along. And that's kind of the advantage of the God thing. It's like an instant recruitment tool. Hey, God's on my side. The only problem is there's a lot of people saying God's on their side, and they all have different sides. So, it's a little bit oversaturated as a scam at this point. You're better off thinking of something else, some better way to control people. Kind of an aside, but I think the more pertinent and important deconstruction of contemporary human mythos at this point is not so much atheism, but nihilism. The rejection of meaning, the rejection of the idea that there is some inherent meaning or purpose, that there is some inherent good and evil that exist out there. And I still use the terms good and evil, but I'm speaking absolutely subjectively based on my own preferences right there. Now, a lot of people are very uncomfortable with nihilism, but I think meaning can be dispatched in much the same way we dispatch the notion of God. Demonstrate objective meaning to me. Oh, you can't do it? Okay, well, until you can, I think the default position is it doesn't exist. It's something that we made up. It's something that makes us feel good. It's something that, I personally, I look at this flag, and to me it has several meanings. I look at that name on the wall, and that has a meaning. I look at the symbol that you can't quite see that's just above that name on the wall. That has a meaning. This has a meaning. Everything has a meaning to me. But another person looking at all those same symbols, looking at this flag, looking at the Joker face, looking at my name, is going to have very different inferences based on what their little feelings are deep down inside, and what their little neuroses are clogging up their brain, and how their little neurons are firing and stuff. You know, there's going to be some profoundly different interpretations of the exact same symbols. There's going to be different meanings for different people because meaning is subjective and there is no objective meaning, and therefore nihilism is correct. And I think that is the more important ism for people to accept at this point, especially if they're already atheists. If you're an atheist and you haven't made the jump to nihilism, then I'd like to hear why. All right, well, I got through the first 3 of the 40 questions that I selected for this Q&A session. This could end up being kind of a long one, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love each and every last one of you. Especially you. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got big plans for you. If you enjoyed this video, I would like to urge you to become a member of the Pessimist Productions Patreon. I think you'll find that there's all sorts of interesting, unique content there for your browsal, for your perusal, for your whatever. And if you don't like it, of course, you could just sign up for a month and then quit and say, hey, this ain't for me. But I think if you show up there, you're going to like what you see. And there's new stuff being added all the time, so check it out. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Peace.